On the podcast this week, we reveal a tax relief that is so buried and so juicy that even we missed it. Welcome to the Profit Cash Growth Podcast. This is the podcast for 6 and 7 figure business owners who are looking to grow a financially successful business. My co-host, Claire Hancock, is a finance director, chartered accountant and entrepreneur. And every week, I'll be exploring guidance and frameworks designed to help you increase your profits, improve your cash flow and grow your business. I think you've got I want to call it like the racist version of Northernism or something.
What are you on about?
Because you don't know the difference between Preston and Lancaster.
I know the difference. I just wasn't sure which one we had gone to several months ago when we did something.
Because they're basically all up north, is what you said.
Anything north of Watford Gap. No, I didn't say
basically,
that. But anything...
Have we been... Basically, the story here is like somebody's just ordered one of your books, available free on the website, and he's based in Lancaster. And I was like, we're getting a bit of an affinity to Lancaster here because you did a podcast with a person you're up in Lancaster.
But that, just stop, because that was the bit that I questioned.
And then you're like, no, isn't it Preston? I'm like, basically, you might as well have just said any northern city. Isn't it Wigan? Isn't it Preston? Isn't it Lancaster?
No, I just thought that we went to a different place.
Ignorance, that's what it is.
No, look, I'm actually very good on geography because
Northern ignorance.
I used to work at a pet sitting company, and when I used to answer the telephone, we used to have to take somebody's postcode, and so they would give us the postcode, and I would know where it was in the UK and what pet sitters we had nearby. So yes, I'm very good on UK geography, actually, better than most people. I'll have you know.
Okay, what are you ranting about this week? You said something.
I had very good news for you. We have finally been able to book onto an Amazon tour.
Oh, yeah.
So the 29th of September, we are doing
news. If somebody didn't listen to the podcast a few weeks ago, just explain what this is.
Basically, you can go on a tour of an Amazon warehouse. It's completely free. And
you wanted to book it for our anniversary, didn't you?
I did. I was trying to book in for our anniversary, but it's very popular and it sells out very well. It doesn't sell out. It books very, very quickly. It's absolutely free. It's like a 2-hour tour of your local Amazon warehouse.
I'm a lucky guy.
All the automation and everything like that. So we are finally booked in for the 29th of September. Unfortunately, you're not allowed to take phones or anything like that in with you. So I guess it's all a little bit cloak and dagger and top secret what you're looking at. But maybe if it is interesting and we can turn it into a podcast, we will let you know what we saw. I'm so excited.
We're definitely going to do a whole episode on it, aren't we?
What we learned from the Amazon tour.
The top 10 learnings from the Amazon tour. You watch it. It's coming.
It's an amazing
We've already written the title before we've written the content. Anyway, let's move on to this week's News Story Week, which I've chosen deliberately to wind Claire up.
Oh, God.
So this week, the headline that caught my eye, which is just like, I know you love all this stuff, Claire. Hating your boss is not a mental health condition, right? So this is basically an advisor-led review has been commissioned by the government to cut the numbers of long-term sick. And their initial response is that they fear over-medicalisation and says that employers should check in with their employees more. So this is all about kind of an I hate my boss syndrome, and how they're saying it should not lead to them being signed off sick with a mental health condition, according to the head of this workplace review. What do you think about this, Claire?
Oh, yeah, look, I think it's very, very difficult, isn't it? Because when you talk about this...
people are nuts.
But it can be quite polarising because there are people out there that genuinely have serious mental health conditions and need help and support and should not be in work because, it's too much for them.
The question is, the story here is it 1 in 5 working people? That's the number of people that are currently diagnosed with a health condition that affects their job. 1 in 5.
That's so much, isn't
20%. So in you look around our office here, of the 10 people here, 2 of them have got mental health conditions. Are you aware that 2 of your staff have mental health conditions?
Well, what classifies as a mental health condition these days? And I think that's where it's very difficult to have a conversation about it, because I look at it this way and I think if there's a scale, people at the top 20% and the bottom 20% would be what I would say is on the peripheral, and they're the people that need help and support beyond what is normal everyday life. But that leaves 60% of people in the middle that I would say, and I hate to use this word, but like average, and probably experience bouts of anxiety, bouts of mild depression, bouts of feeling down, bouts of feeling angry, bouts of feeling scared, and that is a part of everyday life. But now what we've done is, instead of those markers starting at 20% and the people that sit as outliers being classed as having mental health problems, we've moved those markers in, and now if you sit 45% marker, all of a sudden you've got a mental health condition. And it's like, is that a mental health condition or is that life? And it's about building those skill sets, because I've been there
as well, to be in that hole, is it, and to continue to be in that hole. We know, like, there's a lot of evidence that says that people. I always find, like, the strongest in society generally, when something bad happens, actually one of the things they want to do is continue working or refocus themselves or keep purpose, or because they know that that's what keeps them driven in those things. And we know that purpose is a massive part of it. Take that away and say, don't go to work for 2 weeks, sit at home. Actually, it can just be really difficult, can't it? It's
like when somebody, say for example, I asked one of my team to present something to me once, and they were not comfortable doing it. It was the first time they'd done a presentation, let's say, and they really, really struggled with it. And I knew they were going to struggle with it. And the whole point was to push them outside their comfort zone. And I could have, when they got to the point where literally they couldn't get words out because they were that scared about what they were doing, you've got two options at that stage. You can say, take your time, take as long as you need. But all that allows that person to do is stay in that moment of being stuck longer and longer. Mm-hmm. What I actually said to them was, take 60 seconds and restart. Yeah. We're all here. We're supporting you. There's no pressure.
Yep. Go again.
But that's the difference.
That's what they used to say to me.
Take a 60-second break. Gather your thoughts, restart, or stay stuck as long as you would like to stay stuck. Yeah. Stay stuck as long as you feel comfortable being stuck. And I think that's a very subtle difference, but it's like giving people a reason to stand still doesn't help anybody. And I say this as somebody that has genuinely struggled with, I don't know whether I'd say I struggle with mental health, or do I just struggle sometimes with life. I've had quite extreme anxiety at times, particularly around, being in the workplace sometimes as well. And I wouldn't say that I have a mental health issue. I would say that anxiety is just one of those things that I struggle with. Like, other
things
people
that might come and go. Are these all of the they're all just human emotions, and they fleet and they come and go. And
I look at it like this:
you've got to build skills to deal with it. It's like a muscle, isn't it? Everything is like a muscle. If you don't work it, then it gets weaker.
I look at it like this. Some people get acne, some people get bad backs, I get anxiety. I kind of put it into that category. It's not anything that should get in the way of my life. And I appreciate that for some people it is different. Oh, yeah. For some people it is very extreme and it does have an impact on their life. But I think that the amount of people that are now claiming to have mental health problems has become too great.
Do you not think that it gets more extreme the longer you just keep signing people off and they sit at home on their own, in their own, without people around them and various other things?
But look, it's a very difficult topic, but
it did say here, so this was interesting. Let me just find it. How you deal with your hate your boss. And so we can say, is it the case that your boss is hateful? In which case, that's probably an issue that we should figure out. Or is it that your boss is quite legitimately doing what they should be doing, which is challenging you, raising issues of poor performance, so that this is a question of helping you to realise that it's not hateful behaviour, that's just what bosses are meant to do. And I think that's what they're sort of suggesting is the challenge, is what people see as hateful versus just doing their job.
Yeah, and we've been brought up, our generation and slightly older than us, it's like this whole thing of like how parenting's changed and now we're mates with our kids and things like that. And it really has moved to this environment where we can't challenge anything. And we see it in the news. You can't challenge anybody in the news because now you're hateful, or you can't challenge what anybody says because now you're racist, or you can't challenge what somebody says because you're anti-trans and all of these things. It's like, no, this is just a normal part of being a person. We need to mentally challenge ourselves to make sure that we agree with the stance that we're taking. If you're never challenged on anything, then you never challenge your beliefs, and your beliefs never grow and you never develop. So yeah, I totally agree that I actually also do feel a bit sorry for people that got crappy managers, because a lot of people get promoted into a managerial position and they don't have any skills of being a manager.
Being honest though, like people do, like, you go through times you hate your boss, like, bosses
Everybody
can feel
does. But you go through times where you hate your best friend and you hate your husband and you hate your kids.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
I know, but I just mean it's because you only see it from your perspective and you've got limited information. It's like anything. You don't have the information that the other person that you're dealing with has. So, not many people are emotionally intelligent enough to be able to take themselves out of their own seat, put themselves to the other side, say, what else is this person facing? Why would they make that decision? Why would they do that? And actually, you do get yourself into a place where, people feel like they hate their boss. But that's been around forever. I mean, I felt like that when we were growing up. People always felt like that.
I think what you've got to remember is if you're sitting down as an employee, if you're sitting down and your boss is telling you something difficult and it's difficult to hear, I always think it's more difficult to say.
Oh, God, yeah. God, yeah.
And I think that is also the thing that, having been on both sides of the coin, it gives me a different perspective on things now, because knowing that I'm going to have a one-to-one with somebody tomorrow and deliver, I'm not talking about just general feedback day to day, I'm talking about a very difficult message. Maybe you're letting somebody go, maybe you're putting them on a formal performance improvement plan, that type of thing. If you're having a very difficult conversation with somebody, it's so much more difficult to say than it is to hear. I can almost guarantee that.
Yeah,
so, being able to put yourself in somebody else's position, and also just sometimes say, I appreciate that it's difficult for you to say that, and I appreciate you sharing it with me. I don't agree with you and I'd like to discuss how we move forward, but I appreciate that wasn't difficult for you to say. Oh, sorry, that was difficult for you to say.
How much do you think of this is just down to the fact, do you think we've become really poor communicators between each other?
Absolutely, yeah.
Because we don't communicate face-to-face anymore. And so we've become really poor communicators. Because actually I've always found, like, when you're having those difficult conversations with people, actually, it can be really tough. And, the amount of times that, I've had a conversation with people where, it breaks them down into tears eventually, but it does it in a slow, less hurtful way, because it's just more like it's the realization that's come to them that you've had a two-way conversation that's just brought it to the surface of what was already there and no one was saying. Everyone was just was ducking around.
What I would say is that a lot of these bigger issues build up because stuff isn't nipped in the bud early on, and giving regular feedback, having regular communication, and feedback not always being a negative thing. Like saying to somebody, oh, that was a really good job you did there, flows off our tongue a lot better than, do you know what, actually that didn't quite work, let's have a look at what went wrong. And that should be as common.
Apparently not for me, though. That's not what you say. I'm the opposite.
You never say good things.
I do the other way. I never say good things. I don't criticise, but I'm quite good at being direct, aren't I? Unfortunately,
do you know what,
it's a born trait.
You can be direct and not a dick.
Yeah, I'm not a dick. Don't say that.
No, but often
I'm direct and fair. I see myself as an incredibly direct and fair person. If you speak to any of my people, they just know where I stand. Very consistently know where I stand. They're not going to blow smoke up people's arse, but I'm not going to tear them down either. It's like I'm just down the middle with it, and I just think it's always worked. I think people just need to say what they're thinking all the time.
There's a very good book, actually, which was recommended to me. I speak about this all the time, but I love going to the Dan Bradbury Mastermind, CEO Mastermind. And
are you being paid by Dan Bradbury?
No, I'm actually not. But I genuinely love it. I genuinely like going there and having that space outside of my business. There's not many networking events or events that you can go to where it's a room of 7- and 8-figure business owners.
Are you going to label it as a quote-unquote safe space?
No. No, I don't think that phrase has ever been used, which I think is also why I like it.
I'd never heard that phrase until the last 10 years. Everyone uses it now, doesn't it? Oh, my God,
yeah.
I was on a TV program watching last night about, he provides a safe space for me.
Let me get back to my point.
Oh, sorry.
And they recommended, I was in one of the sessions and somebody recommended a book called Radical Candor, and it's all about saying what you want, saying what you mean, basically communicating, particularly with your staff. And so, Radical Candor, I highly recommend that book. If you're struggling with giving feedback or getting your team to deliver what you want them to deliver, read that book. It's really, really good.
Nice. All right, let's move on to this week's detail, because people haven't tuned in for all this shit chat.
They've
tuned in to work out what they're missing.
Not mental health problems.
Everyone wants to save some tax. So this week, this is the tax relief that 99.9% of business owners are missing. And it's that prolific that even we missed it.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, no.
We fixed it, though, didn't we?
We did. It's a good one as well, isn't it?
This is a really good one. And the more I work with business owners, the more I see this being missed on their self-assessment tax returns. Now, I must say, self-assessment tax returns is not something that we do as a practice. Well, sorry, that we want to do as a practice. If somebody has got another accountant that's willing to do their self-assessment tax return, we're more than happy for that to happen, purely because the deadline for everybody's self-assessment tax return falls at the same time. So if you build an accountancy practice on that, it's very, very difficult to manage. So it's not something that we proactively try and get our clients to move to us. But when they do, and we see that they haven't been claiming this tax relief, we can go back up to 4 years and get them a nice chunky tax refund.
Now, the interesting thing about this is that you talk all the time about the general practitioner sort of setup of accountants and how you wouldn't go to a GP for your brain surgery and all these type of things. And this is probably a really good example of where you say that periodically every few years you should go and see a tax specialist.
Yes.
And this is one of those where if we'd gone to see the tax specialist, we might, I mean, they might not have, but we might have had this, mightn't we, a bit earlier?
Yeah, possibly. So, I mean, this is the thing, isn't it? It's like you don't know what you don't know. And if you don't know that stuff exists, then you don't even know to ask a question. And I think that this is where, although I'm like as far away from a tax accountant as you can get, I'm a management accountant, which is all about numbers and performance of a business. But I have quite a keen interest in tax. And in my roles working as a global finance director, you pick up things about the way that different tax regimes work and different countries work. And then it starts to sort of pique curiosity and you think, oh, if that exists there, you know, could that exist here? And so, you know, it's that type of thing. Just listening to podcasts as well, you pick up a lot from that.
I mean, the irony is that you're incredibly knowledgeable on tax.
Yes.
Even though you're not qualified in tax, you're qualified in chartered accountants. Well,
I'm a chartered accountant, so I am licensed.
But it's not your specialism.
Yes,
that's not where you go. You don't go down that specialism route. And the irony is even when you draw on specialists for that, how frightening it is the amount of times that you will out-knowledge them. And that worries me a little bit because they are the specialists that often we're like, go and see a specialist. And I get it. It's because the tax codes are hundreds of thousands of pages long. Like, I don't even know how these people, even if they are a specialist, could ever really know it all inside out.
Yeah, I think it just niches into one of my like superpowers, which is like, I like to geek out on things. So I like to...
You do retain a lot of stuff.
I like to read tax legislation. I like to read the court cases that happen at HMRC, all of that kind of stuff. And that sort of stuff just sticks in my brain very well. It's almost like a little bit like a photographic memory, but specifically for tax knowledge.
Yeah.
So I went into the right industry, let's say. But yeah, so I don't have broad tax knowledge, but I do have very deep tax knowledge in some very specific things.
Okay, well, spit it out because everyone wants to know. What is it?
Well, so, okay, if you are a limited company owner and you have personally borrowed money to loan to your business. So what is really common is people might remortgage their home, for example, and put that money into their business or take out like a personal loan, generally because interest rates are better when it's a personal loan.
Always.
And personal finance is generally a bit easier to get than business finance. Less fees and application fees and all of that malarkey up front. So there's a lot of people that will personally borrow money and lend it to their business.
I would say it's wildly common and probably what most people do to get their business off the ground.
Yeah.
Stick it on a credit card, get a loan or remortgage their house.
Oh, you've got to be careful with credit cards though.
Remortgage their house, get a loan, but it's in their own name because the business has no credit, so they have no choice.
Even a loan from family and friends. If you're paying that interest back, if you can document it, if you're paying interest back, then you can get that tax relief on your self-assessment tax return. So as an example, if you borrow £100,000 and you're paying, say, 5% interest on that, that's £5,000 interest a year that you're paying. You can put £5,000 on your self-assessment tax return and get tax relief on it, either at 20, 40, 45%, whatever your tax bracket is.
Okay.
Because that's the end of the podcast. End of. Short and sweet. What questions have you got, Simon?
Talk me through the process of what I should be doing to do that. Like, practically, what do I do to claim it back? Yeah,
so the key things here is it's got to be documented and there's got to be a clear flow of money. So for example, if you remortgage your home and take out, let's say £100,000, we'll just stick with that number because it's nice and round and easy. If you take out 100k and put that into your business in one transaction, for example, there's a clear flow. You can clearly show that money came in from the bank into your bank account personally and you transferred that into the business.
Let's just work through this scenario because it's a really, really common one, and let's relate it. So I got a bunch of equity in my own home because I've owned it for quite a few years. It's quite paid down and I'm starting a business or my business needs some capital. So I go to my mortgage broker, I'm raising the mortgage on my property. £100,000 comes into my bank account from the property and I transfer that directly. The interest rate on that is 5%, nice and round just for calculation purposes, and I put that £100,000 into my business bank account, which I'm then going to invest in the business.
Yes.
So the 5%, let's make this really simple. I've taken the mortgage on interest only, right?
Yep.
Not on repayment. So I've taken £100,000 interest only. So I'm paying 5% interest on the £100,000, which is £5,000 per year. So I can declare the £5,000 per year on my personal tax return.
Yes.
To reduce your
self-assessment.
By self-assessment.
Yeah. Now, what is really important about this is anybody that's listening that's got property might know of the restrictions on property around claiming interest on mortgage payments. This is not the same thing. So just because you happen to get a mortgage for this loan, it's not linked at all to the restriction around claiming mortgage interest on buy-to-let properties. So completely wipe that from your mind. You can claim 100% of the interest.
Okay. So let me just give myself a practical sense of where I might use this that's useful. So I know, because I do this and I talk to so many business owners that are doing this, they're capping their earnings at £100,000 at the moment because they don't want to pay 60% tax on above the £100,000 because of the loss of personal tax relief, your earnings and the high rate and various other things. So at the moment, if I declare this loan of 100k this year, I can effectively take 105k out of my business and put the 5k extra cost to keep me below that 100k tax limit. Is that right? Would that calculation work out right?
Yes.
Okay, that's exciting to me because it means I can take a bit more money out of my business this year to keep without paying 60% tax on it.
Yeah.
So actually, the value of that £5,000 now to me is at 60%, not even 40%. It's massive.
It is huge. Now, what's interesting with this
is more excited. That's massive. Like, there'll be people listening to this. I guarantee that there'll be a massive amount of people listening to this because I'm talking to them every day who are like, they may have massive businesses. I was talking to a couple of guys the other day, the £5 million business, the people that do the sales progression, and I was surprised to hear them even say that they do not pay themselves more than £100,000 because they don't want to pay this ridiculous. It's not worth it. This, is going to give them a bit more money.
Now, what you've got to remember is that it helps you flex your earnings a little bit and get some tax relief back and things like that. But ultimately, you have still paid that interest out. But it means that when you're paying £100 of interest out, if you're then getting 40% tax relief back on that, actually the cost in your pocket is actually only £60.
Yes.
So
but presumably you put that money to work, as that money's made a lot more.
But you get a double whammy on it because you get the interest relief back. So for every £100 of interest, if you're a 40% taxpayer, then that is actually £60 cost in your pocket. So all of a sudden your mortgage repayments have just got 40% cheaper because you get tax relief. Yeah. And you're putting that money into your business and then growing that money to make more money for you. So you're getting like double bubble on it.
The double whammy.
Double bubble. That's
amazing.
Such a great phrase, isn't it? So this is really, really powerful. Now, as I say, it's easy when you have this like one transaction. I get a mortgage for 100k and I put 100k into my business. What is probably more common is you might drip money into your business over a period of time as it needs it. And that's where you've got to be really careful because there isn't anything that says whether there isn't anything in the legislation black and white that yes you can claim it or no you can't. And what you've got to be comfortable with is that if HMRC asks for more evidence, could you document that, for example, you might have got a 100k mortgage, that 100k sits in a separate savings account for you personally, then you put 25k in, and then 6 months later, you put another 25k in, another 6 months later, you put another 25k. And that's clear because that money has been ring-fenced in a savings account. But if you went and spent all that money personally and then just put 25k in at a later date, all of a sudden, the sort of paper trail is a little bit grayer and difficult to unpick. So you've got to be really careful that the paper trail is crystal clear.
Yeah.
And the money has got to be used in the business wholly and exclusively for business purposes.
Yeah.
So that means that there's got to be a legitimate reason why you're putting that money into the business. It doesn't say that you can't put the money into your business just to get tax relief.
It's just working capital. I mean,
but you can just put the money in for working capital. And what does working capital mean? Because actually we're moving into difficult times. And I think most accountants would say kick 6 months of your overheads in your bank.
Yeah.
So therefore, you potentially could get tax relief that way on it.
Yeah.
If you've got spare money sitting in a bank account, it might be beneficial to go and whack it into a limited company instead and get some tax relief for it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, this is fairly cut and shut, really, isn't it?
Yes.
Kind of falls into the no-brainer situation.
So really, if you've ever taken out a personal loan and put that money into your limited company, you now need to go back and check your self-assessment tax returns. If the self-assessment was filed within the last 12 months, then you can just go back and refile that. So that's easy. So last year's self-assessment, you can still edit that. You just refile. But for anything older than that, you can go back up to 4 years, but you actually have to write to HMRC. You have to write to HMRC, say, I believe that I've made an error on my self-assessment tax return.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm claiming for every year. Here's the evidence that I have. And then HMRC will say yes or no.
Okay.
You don't have to redo a self-assessment for the past 4 years. That's actually not possible. You write a letter to HMRC explaining, and the letter must be signed by you. So your accountant can prepare it on your behalf, but it must be signed by you. Yeah.
Okay, so you can go, if you've just realised this is a case, you can go back and reclaim this money, which could be a huge amount. How far do you think you can go back?
4 years.
4 years. So if you've been dripping money into your business from personally raised funds for the last 4 years, if you can document that and put the paper trail together, get your accountant to write you a letter, document it all together, speak to them about it and get that signed and get it off to HMRC.
Yes.
Free money.
So in terms...
money you're owed, it's not really free money, is it? You're entitled to it at the beginning. So
Yeah, absolutely. You're entitled to it. So, obviously this is a very specific piece of tax legislation. So do ask your accountant about this and make sure that it does apply to your situation, because there's all sorts of terminology. It must be a closed company, which just means it's got like less than 5 shareholders. You must be a director of it. The other thing that you've got to remember is that if the business has paid you interest on it, then essentially you can claim the interest that you're paying personally, but then the interest that your business pays you becomes income.
Yeah.
And so the two just cancel each other out anyway. So this only really applies if the business hasn't been paying you interest on the loan.
It'd be interesting to see how many people now take this to their accountant and their accountant either doesn't know about this or pushes it back at them to say, nah, that's not a thing.
So there's really there's a HMRC help sheet called HS340. Okay, so go and have a read of that, because that sets it out quite clearly what you do and don't need to do. There's also, I'll give you the technical guidance as well from HMRC. So if you put these codes into Google, these take you to the exact HMRC guidance.
So this is helpful, because if your accountant says, don't know anything about that, you can't do that, whatever else, you can pull this stuff, send it to them and say, have a look into this.
So HS340, which is help sheet 340. Yep. And then the technical guidance is SAIM 10030. Okay, so I'll say that again, SAIM, so that's Self-Assessment Income Manual, 10030. And that's all the technical guidance from HMRC, and that gives practical examples and tells your accountant everything that they need to do to get this going. And it also just will give them the technical information to say whether you're eligible or not.
Nice.
Because it's not a cut and shut. Now, where this becomes really, really valuable is buy-to-let limited companies. Now, you've got to be a bit careful with this, because there is something in the legislation about qualifying loans, and if it's a closed investment company, then generally the qualifying loans don't count. So you do need to check with your accountant whether it's relevant for your buy-to-let company or not. But potentially, if you've got a property portfolio in a limited company, it's very common that you've lent personal money into that.
Yeah, for the deposits.
We've got a buy-to-let company that's got about £750,000 director's loan in it. So that's a huge amount of interest that we've paid over the years in personal mortgages to fund that. And you can potentially claim interest relief on that too.
Sounds good.
Any questions?
No, I think that is hot, and I think people will be running to their accountants really, really fast, going, "Oh my goodness!"
Yeah,
because it's pretty big. It's pretty big money. If you go back, if you did 100k and you can go back 4 years, it's 20 grand, isn't it?
The amount of people that have remortgaged their house to fund their business is
a key,
huge.
It's a key way that people get going, isn't it?
Yeah, generally HMRC are looking for a paper trail that says, I did a calculation in my business that told me that I needed 25,000. I then went and got a personal loan for it and put that money straight into my company. In reality, that's not what happened. You might happen to get a mortgage around the same sort of time that you put some money into your business. So just go back, look at the timelines of things, and just look and think, actually, why did I make that decision to remortgage my business? Was it because I knew that I was going to need to put some money into it? So just go back and look at the times that you've taken personal loans, the times that you've put loans into your business, and see if you can tally the two up.
Excellent. Thanks, Claire.
No problemo.
Let's move on to this week's Profit Cash Growth Extra.
This is a great one, isn't it? We've got a new boardroom, and you wanted to write all over the walls.
I love the fact that when I suggested this, you didn't think it was a great one. Then once it was up, it's a great one.
The reason I didn't think it was a great one is, I'm actually just going to say what we're talking about. We're talking about like a roll of, it's almost like wallpaper, but it's like whiteboard wallpaper that you can write all over. So we've got a whole entire wall in our boardroom that's just covered in this stuff. So it basically turns the wall into a massive whiteboard. And originally I thought our walls weren't flat enough for it because they've got a little bit of texture to it, but actually it's gone on really well and it works great. Right.
And it's supposed to, and I think it comes off really easy. It's like
easy.
It's tacky, but not too tacky. And it's like, so you can take it back off easy. But it's really good because you can just like build a really cheap whiteboard on a wall quite easily. So if you've got a meeting room, you just turn the whole wall into a whiteboard. It's quite useful.
Yeah. So, and it's dead cheap as well, isn't it?
Just buy it on Amazon or wherever else. I think like if you go for the cheapest of cheapest stuff, it's really
doesn't
crap.
Stick.
So I guess just spend enough on it because it can be really, really cheap, but you want it to be a little bit thick and, you know, and the stuff to rub off okay and all the rest of it. But yeah, whiteboard on a
wall
or whiteboard wallpaper, whatever it's called. They do blackboard wallpaper as well, believe it or not, where you can use for chalks and things like that.
But you can just paint that stuff
chalks.
on.
Yeah,
I know, chalk's a bit old-fashioned now, but I guess you got kids. That's probably where that stuff's
in the
used.
office?
No, at home I think that's for, not the office. But yeah, so we love our new wall. We put all of the metrics on it for like marketing, and we've got a hot list on there for key leads, haven't we? So things like that go up on there, and it's just because there's lots of space, we can keep it live and kicking all the time. Live
and kicking. God, that's a show. That brings back memories. Well, if you feel like, thanks for joining us for another week of the podcast. If you feel like you might have outgrown your current account and you like to work with Claire and the team at Profit Cash Growth, where should they go, Claire?
Well, as long as they don't want us to do a self-assessment tax return. If that's the only thing you want, then please go to another accountant because we don't enjoy doing them. But if you want other services, you want financial controller services, finance director, or any help with your management accounts, you can drop us a message at Claire, CLAIRE, at profitcashgrowth.com, or go onto the website and book a call with me.
Yeah. Or you can order a free copy of Claire's book, Profit by Numbers, on the website as well. It's a great read. People are just firing in the reviews right, left and centre at the moment.
Right, it's left,
right
and centre.
It doesn't matter what order your rights or your lefts are. And as always, please just rate, review and subscribe or follow this podcast if you're not already following it. And please, if you know anybody, I think there's a lot of people that could benefit from this episode. So
particularly if they've got property or they've recently started a company.
Honestly, you definitely should be sharing this episode. So just find the share button. I don't know if you're on Spotify, if you're on Apple, wherever. Somewhere there'll be a share button or a copy link button. Put it into a WhatsApp, put it into a text message, send it to anyone you know that runs a business and just say, did you know about this? If you know, you could be missing out on thousands of pounds here. And we'll definitely see you again next week. See you guys. Bye.